Good morning, everybody. It is wonderful to see you this fine Friday. I hope everybody is holding on at the end of the semester. Shannon and I love it. Right there, I see Jen going, want to let everybody know that unfortunately, one of our leads of the COP is not able to be here. Megan's actually in the hospital right now, having some challenges with vertigo, very unexpectedly. So Megan will not be here today. Those of you that can send some good thoughts to Megan, we'd appreciate it. She needs to rest this weekend, so we're going to not bug her at all, any of us, like me and Shannon, but just wanted to let you know that one of our leads is not feeling too good today. So anyway, Shannon and I are here. It is definitely feeling like the end of the school year and the end of the semester. We have some challenges ourselves, but we are excited to be here with you all and appreciate you coming together during this time at the space and just having a chance to be together. I'm going to hand it over to Shannon right now to say some welcomes, and then we're going to dive straight in. We also have a fantastic partner who's here today from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and we're so grateful for Dr. Mary Sandy, who's going to be speaking to us a little bit about the PK-3 credential today. So thank you so much, Mary, for being here. Let me hand it over to Shannon, and please make sure to introduce yourself in the chat, everybody. Say good morning, let us know who you are and where you're coming from. And anyways, just please introduce in the chat. Shannon?
Thank you. Yes, good morning, everyone. Hope that you are surviving this last couple of weeks of the semester. For some of you, I don't know if this was your last week. I finished teaching yesterday, so finals week next week, but class time is kind of getting to the end there. So survival mode for some of us for sure. We have been working through just a few of the components and projects that were asked of us over the semester. Wanted to just come back together and see how everyone was doing, just check in. We do have a few things that we want to review with you all, but really informal day today, just to kind of see where we're all at, check in, make sure that if there's anything else that we can help you with and make sure we're preparing for as we're moving forward. Again, lots of questions about the fieldwork hours, so we definitely want to make sure that we continue to update you as we get those updates.
Well, and I want to be transparent, Shannon, with us saying we don't have all the answers yet. We have, I love it, Jen's smiling right there. It is, things are still in motion in terms of fieldwork flexibilities. And so we have samples from a couple of our colleges. We also have had a chance to, we're in process of meeting Marquita's interim person before the new vice chancellor comes on in June. And so we should be getting that information, a little bit more clarity soon, and then we'll make sure we disseminate that to the field.
Yes, perfect, thank you. So today's agenda, we're just going to check in and then we will review what we know so far. And then we are very lucky to have Mary here today to speak with us on the pre-K3 credential update as well. And then we want to continue to look at any fieldwork needs. And over the semester, I created a BSR form for our college for the CBEST component. So I wanted to share that with you all. As I've been working with my CSU to make sure that we're getting all those pieces in place. So again, just updating what we can. So Megan reached out and got information from Fullerton. I think Steve Batista gave us an update from that, from ACTEP. So this is what they're looking at right now as far as those flexibilities. They are looking at birth through 12th grade public school classrooms, but it also depends on the credentials that we're offering, right? So for most of us, we are still looking at early elementary education degrees. So we're still like 5th grade range. So making sure that we have that information and that we're following those guidelines based on our degrees at our campuses. It is exciting to see that we still have opportunities to work within the community so that it's not just hours in a K-12 classroom setting, that, boys and girls clubs, different components within the school district. So there's some flexibilities there. We have been discussing paid work versus volunteer work and what that looks like. And we're working on getting some more updates for that as well. As far as we know, we have not seen anything in black and white that says our students cannot be getting paid while they're doing their hours. So if anybody has heard anything different, please let us know. But we have been digging, and that's been our #1 goal to look for, because what is a big part of our job at the community college is also to help our students find work. They need that experience. And so if we can get them working as a para or an after school program, or the preschool programs that are taking place, then why not get paid while they're doing their fieldwork hours? So looking at that, we'll keep working on those pieces. I reached out to my connection at Fresno State, since I'm here in the Central Valley, and they are working on those updates. They really haven't heard too much either. So I was invited to participate in a training and a meeting day for them in July. So I'll be going there to get updates, and then I'll send out updates as I find them. I think there's a few of my partners here on the call. So Victoria, are you going to that meeting?
Yes, right now it looks like I should be able to attend that as well.
Awesome.
So I'll see you there. I am curious about that specification of working in an after-school program for these hours in relation to the fact that the CID says it has to be under the care or like direction of a credentialed teacher. So I'm kind of curious about
well, we're credentialed too, right? So I go out to my field work with my students often. So I don't know if, with our connection with teaching fellows, I go out and observe my students there. So
I'd like to chime in on this too, Shannon.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like it's time to transition to a new time. I'm going to be totally honest, everybody. The fact that we have a system where we have students engage in free practicum, free field work, free student teaching, and every other industry sector is talking about apprenticeships. They're getting we have San Francisco Bay Area is doing apprenticeships with work-based learning with their after-school programs and community-based organizations. Their students are getting paid to do all the stuff that our students are doing for free. It doesn't make sense anymore when there's opportunities. Right now in the Los Angeles area, there's some funding. Actually, it's from financial aid, so it might be across the whole state. LEAP has some funding. There's the apprenticeship funding that's out. There's all sorts of opportunities for earn and learn. Now, I know the CID has, trust me, I taught the class for 24 semesters. I remember not allowing my students to use any of their paid work for those 45 hours. And I was just told that. And so I said, okay, that's what my boss said. I also remember that I had students who would want to go into a private school. And I'd say, oh, no, you can't do that in a private school. We don't know that that teacher's credentialed. Things are loosening up and changing based on what happened in the pandemic. And so now we need to look forward with our partners at the CSUs and say, what do these flexibilities look like for fall of 2022? And then how can we redefine what this looks like moving forward? Because what we're doing with our students, it's old. We need to like move up into times that are like current. So I love how Fullerton is saying, we absolutely want you in a classroom with a credentialed teacher. We'd like you in that placement for at least 20 to 25 of those 45 hours, because that's ensuring that that student is getting that opportunity to be working and mentored by that, master teacher who has a credential, and they're a public school teacher in an elementary school setting, right? How many of us started in after school care and expanded care? Because the 3 years that I spent in expanded care laid the foundation for every single thing I have done as an educator for the past 30 years of my career. And by all means, when I had the chance to do my fieldwork and my student teaching, that was absolutely a rewarding experience. But also I was somebody who was poor and who had to simultaneously work full time as I was engaging in those free opportunity or those free volunteering opportunities. And then 20 plus years later, I'm still paying off loans for my degrees. So we need to fix that for our students. Just because this is what the CID says and this is what we've done for decades and decades doesn't mean this is what needs to happen moving forward. We're in a moment of flexibilities. The pandemic, man, we championed the field during the pandemic with resources and different online offerings, and also we were being so creative. Let's keep being creative as we move forward. Let's figure out ways where these partnerships with community-based organizations can start counting for our students in different classes and in different ways and in different employability opportunities. When we look at community-based organizations, they need 200,000 employees in the next year. Why wouldn't we try to streamline our EDU students into those positions? Because those are jobs that are on their pathway to careers. So we don't need them to be at Starbucks or Walmart or earning 20 bucks at Target right now, when they can be with Boys and Girls Club, or they can be with a school district, or they can be with Woodcraft Rangers starting out at $20 an hour there. We need to be working and pushing this forward. And this is a time of disequilibrium. So I think we need to keep pushing everybody. So sorry to be on the soapbox for a minute, but we're so used to following the rules of CID. It's time that we change the CID. Just gonna throw it out there. What does everybody think?
Just to come back, I don't disagree with any of that. Your story is very parallel to mine. As a first gen, I started my foundation as an after school tutor and director. Same exact story. 20 years later, still paying back student loans, all that. I don't disagree at all. I think that my question was more directed towards exactly what you were saying. What would be this, because we're up against this system,
Yep.
What do we do as faculty, as educators? And I know I'm a member of ACTEP as well, and that idea of that legislation body. I think my question was more directed towards how do we work to change that system that's forming that box around us? And that was more of my question of okay, I want that goal for my students as well. That it's perfectly clear to me on this end, and I think to the rest of us in this Zoom, how do we come up against that system and try to help rewrite that specificity to help ensure that our students can have those opportunities that make clear sense to all of us? So I think that was more of my question of how do we navigate and network that next step more so not no, this is it, it's not that, it's how do we bridge that? I see that, I didn't see the 20 hours on that, that's fantastic. I'm totally joining Shannon, we're going to that thing in July, what do we do to make that next step happen is kind of more of my question.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, Victoria, I didn't mean to have that coming at you. I hope it didn't seem like that. You guys know me and y'all been working with me for a long time. So I live this, I eat it, I breathe it. And I was faculty for 24 semesters teaching the class, making sure nobody got paid to do their hours and things now that I question. So please know that wasn't intended at you. That not at all, my friend. Okay. I think right now, as we're transitioning to a new vice chancellor within the CSU system that's going to focus in teacher preparation, it's the perfect opportunity to say, can we all sit down and talk? I think we'll ask for an opportunity to come together as soon as that transition has officially happened in June. I think we'll also continue to advocate through ACTEP and CCC TPP, and then also our ECE partners in Peach and Tri-C ECE, and just make sure that we're staying together as much as possible in terms of the information. And then also, whenever there's an opportunity where there's spaces where we can be at the table and be part of the conversation, we need to do that at our campus level, at our regional level, and at the statewide level. So we need to continue having these conversations where we're figuring out kind of who's doing what piece. I wish we had one champion lead of our whole group that we could just then have them move forward. That's not how our group is structured, unfortunately. And so we absolutely will work with our partners at CSU. I think it's fascinating right now, Victoria, that we're looking at this campus by campus as opposed to having one memo come out from the system. Once we have those conversations, I think we can ask for more frequent memos to come out as the changes are happening and as we're able to adapt possibly the CID or the definitions of things within the CID. And so I'm sorry that sounds vague. I think we're in a good spot right now. We just can't take the summer off. And right. I'm not saying that to everybody who's on right now, because I know many of you are off contract. There's some of us that we won't be taking summer off because it's a hot time, that's a lot's going on, and we just want to stay on top of it. So it's all in motion, Victoria, and we're in it. We just need to continue to stay in it as decisions are made and as new leadership comes on.
Thank you.
Steve just gave us some information in the chat box. Thank you, Steve. Yep.
And with that, I am willing to help support and join. Shannon and I are going to go to that thing. If you I will I'm not one to say, what do we do? And then sit back and watch others too. So I will join in and help too if I can in any way. I
Well, and
absolutely.
maybe we could create some sort of like task force with our group that this summer we make sure that we are, meeting with the new vice chancellor, we're getting the information and then we're getting the information out, or I mean, and maybe is that something we should consider?
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. We got a couple hands up. So
And
Sharon's
Sharon's
had a hand up.
yeah. Perfect. And then we'll go to Steve.
And then we'll need to transition.
Sorry about that. Okay, hi, everybody. I'm not going to repeat what other people have said, but this whole stuff is complicated. The thing about teacher, it never even occurred to me that someone who works in a like a paraprofessional can't use their fieldwork hours. I asked them, and it's been since, I don't know, the year 2000, 2001. Yes, I'd be happy that you do the field work in a school where you work. You just have to make sure it doesn't interfere with your regular job, because it is, it's very difficult, but at least if the ones who are working in a school, they're the leaders in the class. They even get other people fieldwork settings. So I've never even asked. It doesn't occur to me to ask because it makes no sense. So but that's one point. But the other point is the inconsistency, like, for example, Education 200 and elementary school. So when you see that people from Education 200 are going beyond the CID and they're doing high school, well, yeah, I'd love that too, but we're not supposed to do it. But it's inconsistent. And even what Fullerton says, it'll just start a revolution, because I mean, it kind of says that you could do it in a high school, and Chico says they can do it in a high school, but I have to have it match with Long Beach, and they don't want a high school. And, the public-private is so inflexible. I'm not saying any private school, but one who has an accreditation that's like WASP, whatever it's called. I forget the name of it. That's pretty impressive too. It's a good accreditation. There's just no reason to cut our students off from this. And during the pandemic, it was allowed, and they had some great experiences, because, so, I mean, I think it's great, if we meet in the summer and get this settled before the fall, because we need some consistency. We have students from all over the state. And so, I don't know what to say, it's getting really frustrating. And, money is tight. I was told I used to get paid a little bit in the summer, like non-instructional. Mm-hmm. Well, I asked for like 70 grand for a project for next year. They're giving me 7 grand. That is not going to do anything. And I don't want it to start this summer, and they're not going to pay me this summer, but they have a lot of money that comes in for glamorous things, cybersecurity, this and that. And you know what? After a while, you get a chip on your shoulder and you say, all the people with all these great professions, they wouldn't be there if they didn't have a teacher. And the government or whoever it is throwing money on them, and some of it should go to teacher education. But that is going on deaf ears, and it's very depressing because the last word, even like with field work now, I'm hearing a lot of, well, they don't want any volunteers in the school. And so, and you hear it over and over. And I had an advisory meeting, with the people in the industry. And I said, is this true? Blah, blah, blah. And they say, yeah, in their classroom, in their school, they can't even have parents come in, they can't this. And it's so, we know that teachers could need help, and we're fine, vaccine or a test or this or that. But if there's a rule in the school, no volunteers, then it's pretty cut and dry. Well, we can't use video, or can we use, workshops? I mean, what can we use? So it would be great to get this together during this summer.
Excellent, Sharon. And we can also, as we meet with the new vice chancellor, we can also share what we did during the pandemic and all the resources that have been created. And actually, Teach LARC, we received, because you guys know I work with the LA regional colleges on a side project, and we received SWP unspent funds. And in a matter of 6 weeks, we rolled out I think 30 different workshops online and have them all recorded and all posted. We could tag credential teachers. I mean, so I think we want to also meet with our new vice chancellor of the CSU system and kind of see what is possible, like going into that meeting. But Shannon, it sounds like we have work to do this summer, and we'll get the word out, see who wants to be involved. It'll be no pressure, because we understand a lot of you will be off contract. But if at the same time people want to be involved, absolutely. Oh, great. Steve, do you want to come off mute and share what you just put in the chat?
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry, just wanted to share that. Yeah, definitely needs to be done with CSU, and ACTEP had started to put one in motion with Marquita to address some of these issues, and then the pandemic. But I'm happy to contribute to reigniting the discussions and trying to get this back onto the radar, because it is all dictated, as you saw, by policy from CSU to executive orders. So that's the way I think we need to address this. And it's so many changes since then. So happy to contribute as well.
Wonderful, Steve. If
Awesome.
we can all work together to help with that, I think it'd be great. And probably, I know it's a busy time, but if we could be thinking sooner than later, so maybe once they have a couple weeks to settle in and we set a meeting in June, something like that. Because I think she comes on June 1st, right? The new Vice Chancellor, Shireen?
I think you're correct.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Wonderful. And we will definitely continue to talk through this and answer questions as we move along. But we, for the sake of time, don't want to run out of time and miss the opportunity to hear from Dr. Mary Sandy, the Commissioner on Teacher Credentialing. And we're so thankful that she's willing to come today and share the updates on the PK-3 credential. So thank you so much for being here. I'll stop share if you want to share anything with us today. I think you're on mute.
I think you are still on mute, Mary.
Oh,
It's Friday and it's the end of the semester, so.
okay, I'm feeling you people. I just really, I'm a first cup of coffee, so it's going to get better. It'll get sharper as we go. I so appreciate the chance to sit with you and even just to hear this initial discussion, understanding all of the different things you're trying to work out, so you have pathways that don't have unnecessary blockages. And Shannon and Renee, thank you so much for inviting me to join you for this moment. And so what Renee suggested that I do is go ahead and go through some slides that we've been using with focus groups. And thank you, Renee, for all of your help in pulling all these different groups together for us. This has been a wonderful tour through and with the different communities of practice and interest groups that have such a vital interest in what's going to happen with credentialing as we move forward with transitional kindergarten. So let's see if sharing screen actually works here. And can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I'm going to do this in a slightly low tech way, but that's, you just ride with me and I appreciate it. So I don't know, this is a slide deck we've been using with focus groups all over the place. So some of this is going to probably be stuff that you know very well, and other things maybe we'll shed some new light on, but I'm going to put it in front of you and then we'll just engage in the conversation in whatever way suits you. Here's a spoiler alert. We are working at the Commission to put together an early childhood specialist credential that will serve children from preschool through grade 3. So it will be focused on the early childhood, that particular part of the early childhood space, and will also then, of course, be available for service in transitional kindergarten, which is a very high priority at the moment as we get ready to do full implementation. So let's just talk for a second about what UPK is all about. There's a broad effort here to work on universal preschool, and universal transitional kindergarten is the first wave of that, really. With the Biden administration proposal, if it were ever to make it forward, we would be talking about universal preschool right now because the funding was scheduled to come out to states to establish that. But with that still pending or possibly dead and not part of our picture, we do have funding for transitional kindergarten for full implementation starting in starting in 2025. And it's the process of getting from 2022 to 2025 involves admitting another 20 to 25% of the 4-year-olds into spaces in our K-12 schools each year between now and 2025. It's putting a lot of pressure on school districts to get ready. It is a fairly speedy time frame for implementing a whole new grade level where facilities aren't necessarily built for 4-year-olds and where the staffing we've had staffing for a much smaller group of 4-year-olds in our state preschool program, but we are in a 3-year marathon now to have our system where the space is available to support our 4-year-olds and where the staffing is available to support our 4-year-olds. So there are a number of funding opportunities out there to support school districts and county offices of education's charter schools to get themselves ready, to get their planning ready, to get their facilities ready, et cetera. And a lot of planning is underway, which, this kind of thing is both exciting and enormously disruptive, right? Can we all just say, yeah, this is disruptive? And how many of us needed a little more disruption this year? I don't know that we did, but the goal itself is so worthy that I think we are putting our shoulders to this and working very hard to get it done because we want to get there. We want to get there, and we wanted to get there for some time. I'm decades into wanting there, as are we all, universal preschool available for our young people and a credentialing structure that really will serve that goal. So on this slide, essentially what we show is that transitional kindergarten is situated in a state plan that really envisions universal preschool. The master plan for early learning and care set this broad 10-year vision for us. Transitional kindergarten is the first step in a UPK effort, and ultimately gives us the ability to focus on this P3 space, working with 3 to 3, if you don't mind that shorthand. That population has an opportunity to really get the foundational work they need and the foundational opportunity they need to thrive academically. Challenge there, and a huge challenge that we're hearing a lot of press back. I wouldn't say it's pushback, but a lot of just ringing the bell that we cannot replicate K3 in preschool. We have got to attend to who we're working with in transitional kindergarten and what they bring to this and what they need. They don't need the K3 or K5 or K6, K12 norms completely pressed around them. They need to have play-based opportunities that are learning opportunities, but not with worksheets, right? With people who understand how to put together powerful learning opportunities for children using play and using the assets and all of the diversities that our 4-year-olds and their families are going to bring into TK. So P3 is really giving us a chance to focus on what that is. I've heard a lot of concern about pushing down, which I just described, the norms of K-12. And this is really our opportunity to push up the norms of early childhood and developmentally based educational opportunities, pushing that up into the system. And more people I'm talking with are excited about that and excited by what it means to bring a more developmental focus into the rest of K-12. So here's the opportunity that sits before us. We have multiple different kinds of delivery systems for early childhood, just very quickly, and how we staff them is slightly different. To work in the state preschool system, and you all know this as well as anybody possibly could because you're working with this workforce, but you must hold a child development permit to work in the state preschool system. If you're in private childcare, less is required. You can enter the state preschool as a teacher with 12 units, but in the private sector, all that's required is 12 units of early childhood coursework. We have the multiple subject credential, which has authorized early childhood. It's in statute for decades now, but does not include a focused preparation on working in the early childhood space. By design, we had a law that required these programs to be completable in 1 year. For many years, for decades, it was a 1-year program. So what did you privilege? You privileged the knowledge, skill, and ability that was going to be needed for the space where these people were going to work, which is mostly in K6. So there isn't an early childhood focus in the multiple subject credential, and we'll get to that in a minute. So we are now building this PK-3 early childhood specialist credential to provide an overlapping credential that for the 3 to 3 workspace. And I don't think I need to talk about the child development permit requirements with all of you. Do I? No? Okay, I'm just going to skip past these 2 slides. I bet you could all recite this in chorus. um, and we've just talked about the expansion of TK. So the question of who is going to staff our classrooms is the question that we get the most often right now. And this slide depicts all of the ways in which we are currently able, we currently have some kind of credential that allows employers to staff the classroom legally for the 22-23 year. And I'm just banding that year for this. The multiple subject credential holder, as I said, is already authorized. So they're a legal assignment for TK right now. Multiple subject interns, similarly, legally assignable in a TK classroom. Short-term staffing permits issued to people who want to get the multiple subject credential but haven't yet met all the requirements for admission. That's the STIP. It's one type of emergency permit, may also be legally assigned. The provisional internship permit is the other type of emergency permit we issue. They are also legally assignable, as are variable term waivers. So these five different types of multiple subject credential are what we have right now, in addition to a local assignment option that school boards may deploy where they can move a teacher who's credentialed in one space into that space. There's a proposal in the May revised trailer bill that would allow child development permit holders who at the teacher level or above, the 24-unit teacher level or above, who have a baccalaureate degree to serve in a TK classroom as a local assignment option. That proposal is in the proposed budget right now. It's got some controversy around it. There are some folks who are pretty worried about that, but I believe it reflects the administration's intent and desire that there be a bridge for the preschool teachers who've been working with our 4-year-olds who hold a baccalaureate degree and a teacher level permit to move with them. And the PK-3 credential, and I'll talk about that in a minute, is really designed to provide a structured bridge so that they can actually earn a credential that is added to their permit and covers the 3-to-3 space. But that's what is available right now. Funding requirements have been in place in the state Ed Code since 2015, requiring that transitional kindergarten be taught by a credential holder who has 24 units of early childhood coursework. The deadline for when that had to be true by has been pushed forward a number of times, and now the current deadline is August 1st of 2023. So as of August 1st, 2023, the folks that I've just described as eligible and legally assignable there have to have 24 units of early childhood coursework. And they're a little worried about that. Lots of folks are worried about that. I've heard from some county offices like Placer County where they've been working with their local community colleges to put together cohort-based coursework opportunities for their teachers who might want to teach in TK to complete those units. Those kinds of innovations are going to be very, very helpful to the employer community as we work to get that group ready to go. And as of the next school year, the 23-24 school year, a school district that does not employ a teacher who meets this requirement will not receive funding for the classroom that they're assigned to. So this is a hard-edged cliff for the employer community that really puts a sharp focus on getting the credential structure and pathways to it available. So we don't have cliffs that people are falling off. So I'm just going to keep moving. Essentially, I'm not sure whether you all are aware of this, but there are 3 different ways in which a credentialed teacher can show they have these 24 units, either on a transcript with 24 ECE units, or by virtue of having experience in a classroom setting with preschool age children that's comparable to 24 units. We used the Carnegie unit formula to determine that, essentially if for full-time preschool teachers, that's about 2 years of experience. For teachers who are teaching 4 hours a day, that could go up to 4 years. But that kind of experience could qualify. And then the third option is that's a credential holder who also has a child development permit. There are some very wily HR directors in our state who can figure out how to get that done in 6 units of early childhood coursework for a multiple subject teacher. And at the moment, well, that gives me heartburn. I'm recognizing that we have to have pathways to staff these classrooms or the whole initiative stops. So, we're moving right along. I'm just going to gloss over this. I'm happy to make these slides available to you if you'd like, if they're of any use. So the preschool or the pre-K through grade 3 early childhood specialist credential is the thing we're working on. And we have authority in statute at the commission to establish specialist credentials without going back to the legislature to get authority to do it. And early childhood is one of the areas that statute says you can build one. Bilingual education is another one, or any area where the commission sees a need. So we are using our regulatory authority to create an early childhood specialist credential that provides a bridge for early childhood educators who have a BA to on-ramp into a preparation program that allows them to complete preparation for the pre-K through grade 3. So an experienced preschool teacher who has a baccalaureate degree in child development, we would expect that they have a fast track to earn this credential by completing the K3 portion of what's required for this credential, because we will already recognize that they've got a degree in child development. They have a child development permit perhaps, and they have experience in the field. So we're looking at this bridge as a way to allow the existing workforce to meet these requirements and only have to complete what they haven't completed thus far. The same is true for the multiple subject population that needs 24 units of early childhood. This credential will be a vehicle for them to get it and to have their transcripts analyzed and their various experiences analyzed so that we can shrink the amount that teacher needs to complete. From 24, maybe it goes down to 12 if they've had teaching experience in TK, or they've had, minor in child development or some such thing. So the bridge part of this is meeting the urgency of the moment. But we also are fully expecting this program, pending commission approval, to build a preparation pathway that could begin as early as high school and move through 2+2 articulated programs that meet the commission standards and performance expectations, where the credential could be completed within the course of a 4-year integrated program, or through you complete the 2+2 or a 4-year straight up program and get a post-baccalaureate pathway or an intern pathway or a residency pathway. We'd like all of these different pathways to the credential to emerge as we move forward, and there's funding to support development of several of these types of pathways. So establishing this credential is a first priority, and we are working diligently to do that. We started a work group last fall and asked them to, because this is a bridge, we've got a set of performance expectations for the early childhood space that the commission adopted in 2019. We have performance expectations for the K-12 space. We asked them to draw from those to create a set of teaching performance expectations, which are the knowledge, skills, and abilities that a teacher working with a 3-to-3 population needs to have. And those standards and performance expectations are scheduled to be on the agenda in June for adoption, along with program standards that describe how a preparation pathway will need to organize itself to open preparation path to this credential. We very much expect and hope that the community college are going to bring the vast knowledge and experience they have in preparing the early childhood workforce to bear in partnership with our 4-year institutions to get these things going as quickly as possible. So we also have been working on, besides what do they need to know and be able to do, and how should programs be structured. Those are 2 products that we sent out for wide field review last fall, or no, just last spring. And those field review responses told us that we basically are in pretty good shape. What we've developed for TPEs and program standards are getting a strong endorsement from the field. The third piece of this is to go into the very technical Title V future regulation portion of it, which is to say, what are the specific requirements someone will have to meet in order to earn this? We've had that out for a survey in the last few weeks. And that survey closed, I think, last week or the week before. We're analyzing all that, planning to bring to the commission what we hope looks like a consensus, that for this credential, basic skills might be covered just by virtue of having a baccalaureate degree. You have to have a baccalaureate degree, and if it's in child development, you may have met the subject matter requirement for this credential. If you haven't got a degree in child development, you'll have to meet at least 24 units. And that's the subject matter piece for this credential that's being proposed, is child development. Some form of teacher preparation that covers the span of 3 to 3 will also need to be completed, signed off on for people who already have it. There will need to be clinical experience. 600 hours appears to be the number that has the strongest support in the field, but distributed across the pre-K and the post-K, if you will, space, so that you really do have exposure to what are very different learning environments, which seems to be necessary. These are all in the proposal stage, and the commission will be discussing very shortly. So I did run some surveys. Those surveys are closed now. But we've got a lot of good feedback. We'll have a good discussion, I think, with the commission in June. Our hope is that the commission will be ready to adopt the standards and performance expectations for preparation programs, which will send the signal to you and your colleagues in the four-year universities about what will be expected. Let's get started on the planning conversations as quickly as we can and start building pathways to this credential. We expect the commission to work through the different requirements that seem to be surfacing as the necessary requirements for the credential and initiate the regulatory process at their August meeting. We are going to try to propose this as an emergency regulation package, given the timeline. And if that happens, then we will have this credential available as early as the fall of this year, while we complete the full kind of documentation of the regulation, which often takes a few months. But with preparation program standards and the credential standing up, we have the ability to begin developing programs that will lead to this credential. The commission is gearing up to provide a fast track review process where it doesn't take a year to get a program approved, if possible. And so that's our goal at the moment. There are a number of resources that are available through last year's budget and this year's budget to support program development and pathway development. So we're doing so many things simultaneously instead of sequentially that there's a lot here, but it can be sorted out, and organized approaches and collaborative approaches can be designed to get this done. So I'm going to stop talking and hope that I've put enough on the table to engage you, and I'm happy to engage around any questions, feedback, etc., that you might have. So
thank you so much, Mary. I was going to ask actually if you'd be okay answering a few questions.
Sure, absolutely.
Wonderful. Anybody who, I see some hands already or some claps, so I love that. But please feel free to unmute any questions you have or any comments. This is a great opportunity to talk with Mary.
Mary?
Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry, Renee. Mary, how is this going to tie into the dreaded CBEST and CSETs?
Well, so
and the RECA.
And the RECA, I know.
And induction.
And induction. Well, okay, taking these one at a time. Our work group proposed, and I think we've got a pretty strong endorsement from the field. We'll see where the commission lands on CBEST. That CBEST should be covered by virtue of having the baccalaureate degree.
Okay.
But
as it should.
As it should.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's time. It's really time.
It really is. It's trying to explain it to my students that they need to take a test after they've taken so many tests.
I know. Well, there are 8 different ways that you can meet that requirement right now, and the test is just one of them. Getting a grade of B or better in your reading, writing, or arithmetic class in your undergraduate degree counts now. Yes. And I raised 3 kids who were really smart, who didn't work harder than C level, so they all have to take the CBEST because they did C-level work, but that's just because they're privileged and spoiled, and that's unfortunate for them. They're gonna have to pay for that. But my hope is that for this credential, we can just say, if you have a baccalaureate degree, that's sufficient for CBEST. For CSET, we don't have a CSET in child development. We are talking, however, and I think there's a very strong wave of agreement that the subject matter requirement for this credential should be child development.
Yes.
And if it's child development, then anybody who's got the permit or a degree in child development or an array of, there are a number of majors with different titles that would fall within the scope of child development, those should count.
Okay.
So the liberal studies degree pathway does not yet, to my knowledge, have sufficient child development in it.
No, it doesn't. I
required.
actually took more than most of my coworkers, and most of my coworkers don't have the child development I did.
Right, right. So for the 2-year programs, and I get this question from different community college folks, which transfer pattern should they take, the liberal studies or the child development? Well, until we have this early childhood specialist credential with a child development subject matter requirement, it's hard for me to say anything but liberal studies. But what I want to say is go for child development, because if you build it, we will come, right? Or we will build it and you will come. I'm not sure how that should go. So the goal is that this is going to be a child development focused subject matter program. But there still has to be a way for someone whose degree is in sociology who decided, wait, you know, so we may have to develop a CSET or some other ways in which someone can demonstrate subject matter competence. It's hard for somebody who's already done with their degree to go back and get 24 units of it. But if there are ways that we can, you know, create several options, that's what we'll do. We don't have the CSET in place yet, though, and we may have to get that started.
Okay, thank you.
And Rika just got a bill asking us to completely overhaul it and away from the standardized test and into a performance-based assessment that will be part of the teaching performance assessment in the future. We have to have that ready by 2025, and we're in development of that right now. There's no way, however, that a teacher with a 3-to-3 credential scope can miss out on the preparation to work deeply in literacy and language development.
Oh no, definitely we need it.
Right, we definitely need it, and those courses I know are already in play. Whether we can get this credential launched without having the RICA as a required confirmation that the coursework you took is sufficient, I don't know yet, but I think the proposal that I'm hearing from our work group is that that coursework should be sufficient and that they shouldn't have to take the RICA until the performance assessment RICA is there. It's a question the commission will take up.
All right.
I realized I was just off mute when I accidentally just said get rid of the RICA, so I apologize if everybody heard me. It's hard when you watch our checks and balances become barriers, and I have a niece who literally just spent 2 years in a credentialed program and then found out she didn't pass her last TPE. And so, and she took CSET 7 times.
Yep.
She was adopted from Romania at birth. She came with a whole set of other challenges, and the system didn't give her the supports needed. And so I live some of this. One thing I want to say to everybody who's on right now, and then Mary, I have a couple questions for you. Get the message across that it's be or better. Start using that now. I have twins that are 15. You guys, many of you know this. And literally one of my kids is like struggling right now. And he's like, you know what, I'll be fine. I'm going to pass everything. I said, you don't understand. In life, if you want to be able to have options moving forward, you have to do be or better, or else sometimes those C's don't count. And so I'm trying even within my own children to teach them be or better. And you don't have to say straight A's. It's progress, not perfection. Be or better gets you to where you need to go. And then if you don't get a be or better, you need to know that based on that experience, you may have other requirements. And so we got to get that word across as soon as possible. Another thing too, I'm wondering with the CSET, Mary, if we could possibly consider looking at portfolios within early childhood education, because portfolios are very common within the community college system. We often have them in a virtual space, so it would be easy in order to send them for review. And it might really be able, because that's kind of part of the narrative in ECE and part of the process. And so maybe if we can bring that process into that part of the CSET or another piece of the credentialing, it can already honor the great work that's happened in that space that showcases their expertise in ECE. That was something that came to mind.
I would love to learn more about that, Renee. If
Excellent.
maybe you could give us a tour of what's involved in that. That would be really helpful.
Absolutely. And Rachel and I have actually been looking into ECE portfolios and kind of seeing who's doing what already throughout the state. So we can absolutely, another thing too, and I'm going to give an offer, Mary, and I'm going to offer this from everybody who's on this call right now. I hope everybody's okay that I'm going to be so bold with this. If you need any community college support for the RECA, you just call on us.
Okay.
We'll show up to committees, meetings, brainstorming, because we want to get those barriers taken down. We know the RECA is a huge barrier for many of our students, especially our second language learners, which in our ECE workforce is a vast majority of the students that we have the privilege of working with. So we'd love to be able to be part of that conversation, because we just want to help get qualified teachers. That's what it comes down to. Any other questions we have for Mary? Or comments? We appreciate everybody being here.
I have a question / comment, and it's not specifically for the K-3, but it's related. And I actually, as I was listening, I was thinking I need to send her an email offline about it. But if I have the opportunity to ask the question, if there's any insight you can offer now, and if not, I can follow up with you offline. But I'm ending, yesterday was graduation, so I'm ending my second year at San Joaquin Delta College. And we have a great new paraprofessional certificate, which is wonderful for students who want to work in the classroom as a paraprofessional, not ready to make the commitment that they want to be a career teacher. Some of them are middle-aged, and that's their goal. Their aspiration is to be, many of them have families, and they feel like, I want to work that's my aspiration, to be a paraprofessional. So we were successful crafting this certificate, which is serving some of our population. But for those students who actually want to be a credentialed teacher, we have been having a challenge, and it's not a new challenge, it's just new to me because I'm new at my institution. What I'm seeing is a pattern of students who join and they're with me for 2-3 semesters, and then they come to me tearfully telling me that their counselor has encouraged them to change their major from the elementary teaching major, because the way that the ADT is written, there are 3 gatekeeping courses, which they are repeatedly unsuccessful getting past. And so they're telling me this, and I'm coming to Delta College with a background of 16 years in K-12, 12 in the classroom as a teacher, 4 as an administrator, with tons of teacher colleagues in my family and my social circle, many of which did not major as liberal studies when we were undergraduates. But the way the ADT is written, they must take the courses that allow them to transfer into the CSU as a liberal studies major. And because that ADT lists courses such as earth sciences for teachers, mathematics for teachers, there's a chemistry course, a physics course, and geology course, and a math course. And those 4 courses tend to be gatekeeping courses at our institution because we don't have those courses. So because we don't have earth sciences for teaching, then they have to take Chem 10. Because we don't have natural science for teaching, they have to take the physics 10. So I'm thinking, I taught 12 of my 16 K-12 years. I didn't need college physics and college chemistry to be a highly effective teacher before we had NCOB, and then a highly qualified teacher when we had NCOB. Yet my community college students are switching from being a teaching major because they can't pass this physics course. And I don't know if the reputation has gotten to this group, but in chemistry at our college, what I learned is that our chemistry department touts we have the largest numbers of transfers to Stanford University of any community college in the nation. And so our chemistry department caters their curriculum and their pedagogy for students transferring into Stanford as chemistry majors, because Delta College and Stanford have that relationship and that good transfer rate. And so I'm just thinking it's causing students of color, it's causing students who reflect the Stockton Unified School District schools that they just graduated from, that we want them to return to pick different majors. And when they transfer, they may still eventually make their way back, but we're losing them at this level and they're changing their identity that maybe I'm not supposed to be a teacher. I can't do physics 10 and get a C or better. And I'm thinking there's so many excellent teachers that I know who never took college physics, who never took college chemistry, and you're looking at one of them. So anyway, I don't know what can be done. I did look up the list, the ADT, the last time it was changed was in 2016, and it says that every 5 years it's supposed to be updated. It didn't get updated last year in 2021, so I'm happy that it didn't get updated. I'm wondering how to be a part of the process to communicate upward. We need to look at this ADT because it's the people that we say we're trying to recruit into the profession. They're enrolling in my program at Delta, and then before they get their AA, they're changing their major so that they can get out of Delta. So sorry that was so long, but
No, that
any
was
guidance you can offer.
brilliant, Bernadette. And thank you for putting it on the table. I think it is absolutely, you were talking earlier before I got started with my talk, you were talking about the onboarding of our new Associate Vice Chancellor at the CSU, who I think can play a critical role in working on that issue within the system. And I think that there are a number of artificial ways in which we have, by the system, made decisions about who can come into this profession and who can't. And they are not serving us well. It is not serving us well to hold for some of these things. And this is a very important time, I think, to put that issue on the table. And this credential really presents an important kind of punctuation mark in that. We have got a very diverse group of teachers working in our early childhood spaces. They reflect much greater diversity than the diversity in our K-12 teaching force. And we don't want to lose that. We don't want to create artificial barriers that keep people out. We do not want to do that. With the whole state, I think, has come to, well, maybe not the whole state, okay, but critical mass in the state. And I certainly think critical mass in the faculties in higher education that I'm working with are ripe for change and ripe for re-examining what was set as a quote unquote high standard that is actually having a very negative impact with no academic benefit that goes with it. So I'm with you. And how to do it, I think you've got to start with your CSU colleagues, I would imagine, and change the narrative from doing something less than or less rigorous than. We've got to have multiple pathways. You have to have, basically, we need to get people ready to learn to teach. And Chem 10 or Physics 10, tell me what value add it's bringing to the mix, all right? So thank you for raising it, and let me just support you in.
I appreciate that. The last thing I'll say on it is there's no teaching major. Like that's the misnomer in it all, is that you need to be a liberal studies major to be an elementary teacher. And the vast majorities of teachers that I knew when I was a teacher and that I supervised when I was an administrator, people had majors like sociology, English, ethnic studies, African American studies when they were K-6 teachers, the multiple subject credential. So it's really, I mean, if you needed the liberal studies credential, then it makes sense. I mean, the liberal studies major to get the teaching credential, it makes sense, but you don't. You can be any major.
That's right.
So that's the problem that we're having. But anyway.
Let's work on that. I'm with you. I really want to work with you on that. And I think this credential changes the narrative. We move away from liberal studies and into child development, which I think really is a better foundation for everybody. You know, we can teach you how to teach content. We can't necessarily teach you everything you need to know about the humans you're teaching if you don't go through the systematic preparation there. So thank you.
Mary, I know we're right at 10 right now. Are you able to stay on a few more minutes, or do you
I sure can. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And everybody, I apologize that we are already at time for the meeting, but this is an important conversation. So anyone who's able to stay on, please do. Steve, I see you have a comment to make. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to ask I had a private question for Mary first, and then we'll come to you. Mary, one of my favorite people in the world is on right now. And they are a perfect example of a fantastic professor who was never able to pass the CBEST. And this person messaged and said, I have a bachelor's degree in child development. I have a director's permit and a master's degree in human development. Can I apply for this credential?
I hope so. I hope that we'll know in June what the commission thinks they want to move forward. And if we can just agree that basic skills is met by virtue of having a baccalaureate degree or higher, heck, I'd like to say by virtue of having an AA degree, for goodness sakes, enough is enough. This is high school level performance that we're talking about. At the same time, these tests are set up, we don't even have to go down the rabbit hole. But so the short answer is, I very much hope so.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And Steve, I saw that you just put that in chat, but I want to hand it over to you right now.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the comments on that. And this has been something I've been trying to work on for the past 6 months. Yes, the TMC definitely needs to be revisited. It was based on primarily integrated programs when those were in existence and were widespread in the CSU. And there was also legislation that required that those units, the units be capped on how many units the students could complete to complete those integrated programs. So all those courses got smashed into that degree, and it's not functional the way it exists, and definitely needs to be revisited in all this work. And so we have the community college individuals aligned for the FDRG. We're waiting for the CSU Academic Senate to appoint their committee members, and we're waiting for at least 6 months in this process. And so that's another list of our lists to work with the CSU Vice Chancellor on, so that we can get working on this committee. And one of the first things that we're going to do is create focus groups of folks in the field to contribute to how this transfer degree needs to work for our students and how it's not working. So
Fantastic.
Mary, just so you know too, Steve is the president of ACTEP, and so he is a great resource in terms of pulling together our community college leaders in early childhood and EDU. And he's been a key leader in teacher preparation for over 2 decades in the community college system. So Dr. Batista is very well respected by all of us, and we appreciate all of his advocacy and the work that he does through ACTEP.
That's wonderful. I've been getting to know Steve a little bit better over the last couple of years, and I understand what you're saying and why you're saying it. I'm appreciating the voice that you're bringing from this community into multiple conversations.
Thank you so much, Mary. And thank you, Steve. I see Jen has her hand up.
Real quick, Mary, do you think that this credential is going to impact private preschools and make it so that eventually they have to have more than the 12 units? Because our community is built up of primarily small private preschools, and they are starting to freak out.
Yeah.
And so should they be?
No, it's
about it, and
way too early to freak out about that.
Okay, that helps me.
If they're in private preschools, they're subject to a whole different set of regulations. They live under Title 22 regulations, and they live under the Department of Social Services for authorization. And and I don't know, a lot of the subsidized infant, toddler, and other care programs have shifted from the Department of Education to the Department of Social Services. And we are right at the beginning of talking about those programs that were at CDE for administration and had a permit, the child development permit requirement associated with them. I'm not sure what their status is as they're in flux, but there is no requirement that any private school teacher have a credential at this point. At the same time, we have regulations that recognize teaching in a private school and allow you to count that toward earning a credential for the public schools. So, but right now we're not looking at, we have no authority over those 12 units.
Okay, I will tell them that, because we had community breakfast and they were all very upset, and I understand this is their livelihood.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
for some of them, these are directors who have been doing this for 15 years, and the thought of having a new credential with more experience, just like wiping them out or them needing to stand up to that level.
Yeah.
Is
Not
very
at all.
scary.
Not at all. The credential itself at the moment, even though it's got a 3-to-3 preschool through grade 3 focus, as we've developed it, is not going to be required for the state preschool program either. The
Okay.
child development permit will continue to be the primary license for any preschool, pre-K program that requires a credential from the CTC. So it's the child development permit that will hold. And we will be turning our attention to that as we get this credential launched. We have to then take a look at the rest of pre-K and figure out, do we have everything as it should be? And but that's on the drawing board, not even yet on the calendar.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Mary, I've got a question of something that came up earlier this week that I'm hoping you can give some clarity to. I was under the impression that when somebody will end up being granted the ECE P-3 credential, that they would automatically then end up on the K-12 salary schedule. And I had somebody earlier which to me is a huge incentive to doing this credential, because like you can make really good money if you're strategic on the K-12's credential. And I say that because by my second year of teaching, I maxed myself out on how much I could make. But I was strategic for years, like in order for that to happen. But my question to you is it true that that is going to be negotiated district by district and by unions in terms of if that credential will land on the other K-12 salary schedule? Because that sounded, I wasn't sure about that.
I up until you raised the question, my answer to the question would have been, they're going to be employed in the K-12 system and they'll be on the K-12 salary schedule. And I cannot imagine any negotiation that would pay a TK teacher less than a K teacher under this scenario. So the credential will authorize them to serve in TK. The multiple subject credential will continue to authorize service in TK, and entry-level salary, as I understand it. Now, I don't negotiate any of these kinds of things at the local level. So I've got a 10,000-foot view that there's a lot more nuance than I may have at my fingertips. But the best of my knowledge is that when you start working in the TK-12 system, you'll be on the TK-12 salary schedule. And I don't think this credential would change that. But you've given me enough. I'll dig around that too and make sure we both understand this the same way. If I'm wrong, then I'll let you know, Renee, for sure.
Wonderful, because I was really surprised. They're like, oh no, they're not going to be certificated. They're going to still be underclassified, and each individual is going to have to get, the individual schools are going to have to work with their unions in order to move them to that salary. And I'm like, I don't think that's the case.
No,
So
I think once they're credentialed, they're certificated. And once they're employed on that credential, they're certificated. And they'll be represented by whatever labor union is operative in the district. But the second adult in these classrooms, and as of this upcoming year, there is a 12-to-1 ratio that must be present. So one lead teacher and one second adult. The second adult in there is likely to be a paraprofessional of some kind and on the classified salary schedule. But they could be in a teacher residency program and serving as a resident teacher in that classroom, and at the end of 1 year have their own early childhood specialist credential or multiple subject credential, depending, and move out of classified and into certificated that quickly. So there's some wonderful opportunities here to grow our pipeline.
I hope we look at that as an opportunity and maybe even create a mentorship program within that dynamic of those two people. Because if there's some way that even like, a little stipend or something related to it, where we can create a solidified mentorship program where even if that person maybe is a para and maybe doesn't want to step into a teacher role, maybe they'll at least get that information for that possibility for the future, or hopefully, keep bringing people into that position, because we're going to need both the co-teacher and the teachers in massive amounts.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
It's a big lift right now.
What other questions do we have for Mary, or any other questions before she leaves us for today?
I have one more if you don't mind me keep asking questions.
Bring it.
So I worked in private preschool for 2.5 years. Would that count towards this credential or no?
We are thinking that if it is center-based preschool of some kind, So, as opposed to, you know, family childcare or home-based childcare. I think that the way the work group was recommending we go about this is to recognize center-based preschool
Okay.
setting,
Okay.
public or private.
Yay. Because I think I need
That's the
this.
goal. Watch the commission space, because you know these conversations are you know, they're deep and long, but through the course of them, we're getting to clarity so we can actually
I
regulate
taught
it.
kindergarten in a private school for 2 years, and then I've taught preschool at a private preschool for 2 years.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping at least some of that counts for something.
Yes, we're looking at how we can let that count for something, absolutely. We're also trying to figure out how much clinical experience can occur in the course of a job that you hold. Again, part of the conversation you were having before we got into this part, you know, we don't need ridiculous barriers.
No.
We need meaningful barriers.
Mhm.
We do. We need barriers that actually make the difference. If you push through the barrier, you've actually learned and gotten something. So supervised, and I think you can have, if you're enrolled in a preparation program and you're working part-day preschool, it seems imminently possible that whoever is supervising your clinical field work can come visit that site, and that there are certain things that you should be able to do in that site. In other words, it seems imminently possible for that space to be productive for you meeting a field experience requirement. Now, this again, from my 10,000-foot experience, you all have got perspective on this, and I, you know, would value your advice on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mary?
I just would say thanks for showing up at so many community meetings. It's been really helpful, and I'm sure also very tiring.
It's very exciting, friends. You know, when I started work at the CTC in 1992, and in 1993, we undertook the revisions to the child development permit. It created the career ladder we're in. So I've been working at this as a policy and licensing issue for many years. My colleague Debbie Keeler from the commission is also on this call, and she's been attending these as well. It is so vital to have the connection to you, these communities. You are the communities that are actually doing this work on the ground. We can dream up all kinds of abstractions for you, but if we don't get it grounded through these kinds of conversations, we're going to miss the mark. So thank you for letting me take up so much of your time. Let's stay in contact.
Thank you so much, Mary. We appreciate your partnership. We just open invitation for spaces as this work continues. We are happy to be a partner in any capacity. And if we can open space or create events or anything along the way, because I feel like this is going to be a multi-year journey together. Just know that we come in solidarity, and we're excited for the future. And I'm just so excited that ECE and EDU is coming together, and people can be both and one at the same time. I think that's wonderful. And I think it's going to just lend for many opportunities for our students. And yeah, there's going to be some challenges along the way, but I also feel like if we face challenges cohesively, you know, as teams across groups, that we'll be able to rise to the occasion, and things in a couple years are going to be stellar. So
I know, that's right. It's a little rough water right now, but it's good to smooth out downstream. This I'm convinced of, and that's if we all just keep at it. So again, thank you. I'm going to jump off to another meeting. I think Debbie will stay until you gavel the meeting closed, but I look forward to engaging more and more. So have a great day and great weekend.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Now,
you.
everybody who's able to stay on, we are going to talk about the BSN form a little bit. So, and thank you so much for holding on, everybody. We didn't think that we were going to go so long today, but we greatly appreciate you being here. And thank you for your questions. One thing that's been really exciting working with the commission is they want to talk, and they want to listen, and they want to hear what we have to say. And so please don't be shy right now. If you're in this space and don't feel comfortable sharing, please share comments with me or Shannon, and we can get them directly to Mary and Debbie and our colleagues over at CTC, because we're trying to just gather as much information as possible and share it as transparently as possible. So please let's all work on it together and keep working. So Shannon, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you
Awesome.
so much for indulging me for this section too, everybody. I know that was a little bit long, but you know, having the executive director of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, it makes sense that we take the time. So thank you.
Yes, for sure. I appreciate that. Yeah. And anytime that we can continue to work together to lobby for our students, we just need to continue to put in that time and that effort. On a side note, Bernadette, we had the same issue at our little college out in the middle of nowhere. And so we connected with Fresno State because they're our feeder CSU. We worked with them. We created a physics course and a chem course for our students, and they send us the instructor that teaches it for us now because we don't have somebody to teach it. So we run one course a semester only. It's a night class, but Fresno State's instructor is teaching it for us. So look at other options.
Well,
Can I please, thank you for sharing that. I'm taking notes as you were talking, I'm typing. Can I reach out to you just to kind of pick your brain and talk through a little bit of your process? Because that seems like a really wonderful route to go.
Yes, for sure. So yes, we're in the
Awesome.
same boat. Like, I totally understand. Yeah.
I
But we're
appreciate you.
small. We have to be flexible and creative in solutions. And so, you know, whatever it takes for our students to be successful and get there, we'll do it. So awesome.
And I'm almost thinking we might want to gather some additional feedback and other ways that people are doing this. Because if we have courses that are already written, that have already been approved, let's share them, right? Everybody, like, let's keep it simple. And if we have certain partnerships or certain things we ran into that others could avoid, I think it might be good to kind of gather that together. I also have been thinking too, you know, knowing that community-based organizations with the expanded care rollout need 200,000 employees, I really think we need to, across all of us, also be talking about bringing back school age classes. Not every campus has recreation leadership and school age and childcare, and there's certain school age classes that are literally what you need to take to be in these CBOs, these community-based organizations, but they're not required in our core 24. And so sometimes they get left on the side, kind of like math for early childhood and literacy for early childhood. They're like extras in a sense. And so we want to kind of bring those to the forefront and make sure everybody's advocating to have those classes on campus. So Shannon, I'm almost wondering if maybe we need to like kind of put something together that has, I don't know, but I think we need to kind of think it through a little bit and maybe create something to share in this
Sure.
that relates to this.
Yeah. So there's been tons of work going on. I think they're both offline now, but I've been working with Fresno City and with Clovis Community in our area. We're all in the same kind of region. And Victoria and I just met through her being able to be part of our cooperative. And we actually got to present in person together not too long ago in April. So it was awesome to finally get to meet in person. And her and I will be planning on having coffee soon. We're going to meet in town and visit. So it's been great to be able to make those connections and continue to meet people in this space and work together to make, you know, things happen for our students to continue to push forward. So definitely would love to look at some options and find ways to do that. I can tell you that our website is fully open for everyone to see. So like all of those courses and the outcomes and the cores are all there. So another important piece for me that I'm a huge advocate for is the fact that we are a zero textbook cost degree on my campus. So my students don't pay any textbook cost. And so again, with that piece and hiring Fresno State's instructor, we hired her with a stipend and she made those courses OER for us. So our students are also not paying textbook costs. So yeah, lots of opportunity, you know, in continuing to find ways to grow. So we'll keep you posted. We're working on with Dr. Rosemary Wren. She's amazing out of Cal Poly and Cuesta. And so we'll be working with her this summer. She led the charge on creating ethnic studies in education. So we'll be meeting with her to work on that. And then I'll be working with our OER librarian to make that course OER. So we'll continue to expand again. So questions that are coming up, developments, just send them to us, anything that you have. And then we will continue to work through work groups and creating space to make sure we get those questions answered and support you. Again, the last piece that I was going to talk about, what I'll do is I'll just send it out in an email. I created a Word document for the basic skills requirement form based off of the BSR that was sent to me from Fresno State, since they're our feeder. We simplified it. I worked with my counselors. We made a simple form for our college, and that's all it really needs to be to go to university, for that B or better, right? So we created it through our system and as a dynamic form, and now my counselors are in charge of it. So that information goes out to all of our graduating students after they petition to graduate, after all of that piece is done. And they know if they're going to university to become a teacher, whether they were an English major, a science major, whatever they were, not even just that they were taking my education pathway, that they know that they need to complete that form. It's a quick piece. It shoots it right back to the counselor that sees that student. That counselor goes through, fills out their completion components to show that they got a B or better. And then it goes back to that student once it's completed. And then they have that to take with them to get into their credential program.
Shannon, you have the BSR form. You're going to put it on the Canvas shell, right?
It will, and then we'll be updating that, so it doesn't update directly. What I was going to do was I'll send it out to our listserv with the recording from today, and I'll have all of that in one space. So I'll send out the PowerPoint that Mary shared as well today in that one, so everyone will get all that information from us.
Also, if by chance, just so everybody knows, we send this out through a couple different listservs. So the EDU CoP listserv comes directly from Shannon and Megan. So if you heard about this meeting from me, I am using other listservs to get the information out. So if you would like to be included on Shannon and Megan's EDU CoP listserv, make sure that you put your email in the chat or message Shannon, because we want to make sure that you get the form and the recording and whatnot that comes out. I also want to give a plug with this BSN form, everybody. This is the, or excuse me, BSR is BSN. I think that's like is that like a nursing thing that I just said? So the BSR form, I would highly, highly suggest for anybody who's on right now that teaches the Intro to Education course, please give the form at the very beginning of that semester and say, this is an FYI. Here is a tangible copy for you to put in your notebook, so that way you know that this is something you will need to do. I think the more we can front load it, the better. And like getting that information from the beginning about, you know, you got to get a B or better, and just trying to get that information out as soon as possible. So that way, I don't like an ambush model. I feel like a lot in education is an ambush model where you think you're doing exactly what you need to do. Then all of a sudden it's like, ta-da, there's this other piece, and guess what? You know, you got to do this now. It's another thing to jump over. And so let's move away from an ambush model and try to front load as much of this information and be transparent with our students. And I know we can't always be transparent because things are a little murky right now, but something like this with this form, get it out now. Have them have it in hand and let them know that it might change over time, but that this is something they need to have on their radar.
It's also like both sides of it. So now I'm dealing with students crying at me going, I have a 79 in my transfer level English course, you know, like, well, go talk to your English instructor. You're
like, wait, it doesn't end till next Friday. Have you asked about extra credit yet? Because, well, and that's interesting you say that though, Shannon, because that also makes me think about, and I know this isn't like a fire right this minute, but that makes me think about also having a conversation with the faculty that are teaching those classes and letting them know that now, and not that we'd want them to change grades, nothing like that. But if they can also be sending out that message, B or better, you've got to get that 80% or more in order for this to count. Then they've got that transparency, you know, in multiple places and that information in multiple places. Because then if you have that 78 and you're like, I'm done, I'm so exhausted, I can't do anything more in this last 5 days of this class, you suddenly might be like, hold up, for 2 more points, what else do I need to do? And so it might change people's kind of outlook on their coursework.
Hey, Shannon, I had a question for you. Who's signing that form? Are counselors signing that form, or is it signed by the faculty, like the English faculty and the math faculty and the critical thinking reading faculty?
Right now, it's connected to the counselor, because if we have students that have graduated in the last few years, faculty do not have access to their grades anymore. So counselors have access to all of that. So it made the most sense for their counselor to have that access to that form to approve it. So that's where we're at right now, is that each learning area counselor will be in charge of their student caseload.
So that's like just congratulations, you've met it. It's not like the same form that CSU Fresno would want you to submit if they're asking for verification that your English 2B meets the reading basic skills, because that's in that form that needs to be signed off by the department chair in English, right? Your form was more of a congratulatory to them.
No, it connects back to that piece, right? So when it is completed, those pieces are connected with Fresno State right now only. It will go back to that faculty area, but it's the starting piece. So we have a connection where something comes back from Fresno State. But it will get, like I said, we're in the beginning phases of what that's going to look like. It will get to that faculty to sign off. But we have to start with the counselors because we don't have access as faculty yet.
Right.
So
yeah. That's great. That's great that if the students met it, they get a checkbox and they can, feel like they've accomplished part of the pathway on their journey. But the verification piece is different. I know for me, for the CSUs and the other schools, but that's awesome. Love to see the form.
It's a start. It's for us to work with our CSU. And again, I'll be making what other changes and additions we need to once we go in July to meet with Dr. Fred. So yeah, it's been hard to get something going, but we've already been getting contact information from students that are at Fresno State or at Fresno Pacific saying, hey, I need to know how I did. Like, I can't just submit this. So yeah, that's where we're started.
So is Fred Nelson the person you're working with at
it is, yeah.
Please do me a favor. He's actually the lead CSU faculty member for the FDRG and will not respond to any emails about getting the group together to examine the transfer model curriculum. So please, I've sent him 2 emails. I've asked the CSU Academic Senate to send him 2 emails. I don't know why he's not responding, but he's the linchpin for us to change the TMC because it's a collaborative effort. So any sway and pull that you might have with him would be much appreciated.
I'll give him a call for you. He just came off of sabbatical, so he's still playing catch up on quite a bit. So yeah, that's probably where that's coming from. So we actually haven't had him with us for a while. So
thank you.
I love having these kind of spaces because sometimes life just simplifies when somebody goes, oh, let me give a call or let me send a text. And so I just appreciate that we can have this openness and this discussion. Also, I know we're going to get ready to wrap here, but I do want to just give a huge shout out. Debbie Keeler from CTC is on right now. And Debbie, I have got to say, first of all, she's a dynamo. She's like totally fun to work with. Many of you who are on right now, I can guarantee would absolutely love her. But she was one of the main people that did those 10 focus groups with me last week, trying to get the field perspective and whatnot. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Debbie and also see if there's anything you'd like to say to the group. Sorry to put you on the spot, Debbie, but it's just an opportunity having you here.
Thank you, Renee. It was a pleasure to do the focus groups, and it was great meeting just such a variety of people. And thank you, Renee, for helping to facilitate that. And I'm looking at all the data right now just to be able to pull it together because your voices are so important, to that process. So thank you so much, and definitely look forward to working with each one of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Shannon, do we have anything else for today, or?
I think that was kind of where we were ending off. Just any other components. I got the emails out of the chat box, so I'll make sure I add you to our listserv. And as questions come up, I'll continue to work on that and build from there. So I appreciate everyone being here today. And hopefully we can continue to make progress and just continue to flip the system to where it needs to be to continue to help our students be successful. We're living in a whole new time frame and so much going on that we definitely need to make sure that we are charging ahead and saying, what else can we change? What other narrative can we fix to help our students be successful? There's so much to do. So for sure. Jen, do you have something to say?
I have a quick question that I wanted to talk about field work. We jumped back and forth from that because we wanted to talk to Mary. I have my class is connected to a high school dual enrollment class. And she wanted to know, do we hold the high school students to the same 45-hour requirement? And then if they don't complete it, do they still get an incomplete?
I believe that the dual enrollment classes that are engaging in the intro to teaching class are holding them to the 45-hour requirement. One of the keys with that, though, is you need to make sure that within the structure of the school day that you have the partnerships with, first of all, that they have the time to complete the hours. Like, for instance, I have 2 kids that go till 3:30. There's no way they could take that class right now. But maybe in their senior year, my daughter's schedule is going to be in a place where she could be out at 12:30 2 days a week and go into a classroom. Now, the key with that too, though, is you've got to make sure you have a solid partnership. It can't be like, go find your own classroom.
No, we have a solid partnership, which worked quite well, but she's trying to, we kind of got thrown this, oh, hey, we're gonna have this amazing thing. And we have 44 high school students who signed up for this, which is amazing, but she didn't know, is there any leeway with, I said, no, I don't think there is. It's a dual enrollment class. And
Jen, are they in the class right now, or are you talking about for fall?
no, right now.
Okay, right now okay, I'm going to get on the soapbox for a second. Right now, there's a huge amount of leeway, and you don't want any of them getting an incomplete in the class. Because at this moment, they can use videos with credentialed teachers. We have a huge library of them. We have them on Teach for LA, Teach for the Bay. We have multiple places where students can instantly access credentialed teachers that are doing topical trainings and information that, like, anti-bias training, restorative justice training. Just 2 weeks ago, or no, last week, California's Teacher of the Year gave a 2-hour workshop on building community. Those are all posted online. None of those students should get incompletes this semester. They absolutely can do a blended version of being in a classroom. They could also, some of them right now are not doing any classroom placements at all, and they're still doing more like the video and professional development. Shannon, sorry I kind of took this over. What do you want to say on this one too?
So I have 2 instructors that we just interviewed again and hired at 2 of my high schools that do this for dual enrollment. I actually meet with them regularly. So we talk probably once a week. But what we've done is, because their students are under 18 and we're back pretty functioning normally as far as back in person, they go out during their school day. So we have this course ran through 2 semesters, so they get more than 45 hours completed. And they're working on 1 day a week, they're in the classroom, 1 day a week, they're in their education classroom. So looking at opportunities for those students to use that class time to go to the elementary setting is a huge piece.
So, but does it look like we are going away from allowing online observations in the fall? It's about to be no more.
Correct. There's more opportunities with the flexibilities as far as not just being in a K-5 setting, depending on your school's credentials, but we're going to be back in person.
Yeah, we know for sure at least one of the CSUs is saying no online videos at all. And so we haven't met with the whole CSU yet, but for this semester, it's still allowed. And I'm doing a plug on this. I just put the link here. When you go to this page, every single one of these, these are videos, these are workshops, these, like the slide decks are there. It tells you who the people are. There's so much content, like it's unbelievable. And here's the cool thing. That was up here is just Teach for LA. If you actually scroll down here, this whole series of workshops is what we did with the unspent funds in the region. We have fantastic early childhood, fantastic K through 12. I mean, there's so much good content here.
I will contact her and tell her that we've got to smush this together if we can.
Oh, thank you. I was going to say, I think we have this link, but I'll add this link to that email when I send that out, Renee.
Perfect. Because we just added a ton to it. And Jen, just know that we're going to talk with our CSU, the new vice chancellor, once they are officially in. So hopefully this summer we'll be able to send out, like last year we had a memo from CSU. So I'm praying that we can get something that's cohesive.
I would appreciate that, just so that we all had something that we could go, no. Because she's awesome and she's willing to do whatever I need her to do essentially to work together, but she's like, this is not my wheelhouse at all.
Yeah, yeah. Also, Jen, I know this is kind of strange, but if I'm not sure what your timing is with those students too, if you happen to need to like put together some sort of workshop or something where they can all attend and get some hours, I'm
Okay.
credentialed as a teacher and a principal. If you
Okay.
need me to run a workshop for them in the next like week or two to get some of their hours completed or whatnot,
Okay.
or do a Q&A with them, I mean, or whatever, please know that I absolutely, like, we want them to complete. We don't want
Yes.
incompletes. So if you've got a couple more days and you need some
Okay.
events or something, you let me know and we'll make
Okay.
it happen.
Thank you so much. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
I taught the class for 24 semesters. I'm like
Yeah.
hardcore when it comes to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You bet. I see Adira's hand is up too.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry. I didn't have my camera on. I was at the doctor's, but I actually wanted to share with, hey, Shannon, so nice to see you.
You too, Yadi.
Jen, I was going to say, because I'm teaching the EDU course right now as well. And it's that time of year. And you guys all know that we have students who just left the 45-hour thing to the last minute. I think right now, like Renee mentioned, there's so many creative ways to get our students to complete. And I wanted to share with you, one of the things that I have right now is I actually use the Teach for LA conferences that we have, because we pointed out some of the teachers who did a workshop who are credentialed, and those hours count as well, along with the library that Shannon and Megan provided for us. What I am doing is I actually have a check-in with the students who are missing, because I have students who are missing 25 hours, and I'm telling you that the class is over next week. So right now I developed what it's called a check-in with professor. So this Friday, today at 3 p.m., I have a check-in with students every week. So they have to complete every week now 10 hours of videos. And so I do the check-in every Friday at 3, because that's the only way that I get them to keep track. So if they know they're going to meet with you, it kind of forces them like, oh man, I got to meet with professor and I have to have, whatever hours done. And because like Renee mentioned, right now, because of the pandemic, we have the ability to just show videos. I doubt that that's going to happen coming in the fall. We actually got an email from Amy Nelson, who is our CSU in Fullerton, who said that they will not be accepting videos for the fall. So I think right now is the best time. Like Renee mentioned, let's not let them not get the credits for this course. So maybe like weekly check-ins with them. That's what I've been doing. I know it's a lot and I know it comes out of your time, but I think right now it's a need so that we get all these students through this course.
For sure. It's been crazy trying to get some of these kids. I don't know, like it seems everywhere. There's been an issue with motivation lately.
Yes.
Yes. And it's so hard. It's like, you don't understand, like, this is the best opportunity for you, because later on it's going to be difficult. Like, and I'm still like, okay, if we're going to be back in person, but the HR department at my feeder elementary school district won't respond to me. Because they don't want our students back in their classrooms. So I'm going to be
a COVID outbreak this week, Shannon.
Sorry, no, they just won't respond to me. She just doesn't want to respond. So my little rural country schools, they've been taking my kids the whole time, even during the pandemic. They did not care. They needed boots on the ground, so they took my students. In towns that are like population of 500 people, those are the kinds of kids that we're working with. But my larger district where my college is at, they won't respond to me. But I know all of them by name. I know where they work. So guess where I'm going next week during finals? Gonna be knocking on their doors. So
that's the way to do it, Shannon. That's the only way to do it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Coming fall, this is going to be very interesting, at least for me at the LA area, because I already know that. And because I teach EDU at Rio Hondo, it's one of the, we do have a lot of feeder students who go to Fullerton. So I'm going to really have to do the legwork this coming semester to go and find districts.
Yes, I know, right? So I've just been updating our MOU and sending out examples to anybody and everybody that will listen to me. So it's just been constant with pushing. But I went alongside our teaching fellows and created a pipeline. And so we're going to be getting funding. I think we're using was it the LA, what did you say earlier? Was it LEAP funding?
The LEAP? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think my president just gave me that funding to use to create a pipeline. I'll be working with sophomores in high school. Our college and teaching fellows will be working together to run professional development. And when students complete their professional development at the end of each school year, they get a little stipend, which goes towards their college experience. They don't get the money in their pocket. So that's how that's going to develop. And then we'll be working with them all the way through to their senior year. End of senior year, they do exit interviews with us, and we hire them right there on the spot. They work in our summer program at my college for 3 weeks, and then they start teaching as an after-school program in August. So
Yeah, Shannon,
it's
you might want to spotlight that maybe this summer or beginning next fall, because it might be something that others may want to do as well.
you have to go where you can to make it work, and so we're just going to be as creative as we possibly can within the guidelines that we have for now. But I think it's going to continue to grow and change as we keep moving forward. So
Well,
yeah,
I think
it's
they're not
exciting.
answering because I don't think they know all the answers right now. And I'm sorry if I sounded flippant with my comment about COVID. This week, I've received 3 different emails from my kids' schools saying that they've had close contact, and my son's theater production was shut down yesterday. They were supposed to be able to have 2 more nights of performances. And so I know right now where I live, people are getting it. We have a family member who's in renal failure in the hospital right now. Excuse me, not family, but like he is like family. And so I didn't mean to be like weird about that little comment there, but just when you think like we're, moving away from the virus and that things are getting back to normal, then, you see another kind of wave come. So hopefully by fall, things will be in a better space and our students can be back in the classroom. But if for some reason something happens and they can't, I think we need to be prepared kind of both ways. So if
Yes.
I think during the pandemic, we showed if there's a quick pivot, we're good. So if there's another quick
Right.
pivot, we'll make it work, right, everybody?
For sure. Well, and my husband just told me last night there's some new flu from a new animal from another country. I don't know. He's a
Monkey.
science. It was a monkey. Yes.
Yes, it was
Okay.
on the news.
Okay.
I think they called it monkeypox. So,
No.
because I was remembering chickenpox, but it was monkeypox, and they had pictures, and yeah, they were talking about it yesterday on the news.
Yeah,
Can't we just get to summer? Can't we just get to summer, guys?
my husband goes, "Oh, great, another pandemic from a monkey." That's what he said last night.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I know, it was terrible. So, definitely, we have the flexibility at least to continue to be creative, and that's what we've definitely taken from this pandemic is that, you put teachers in a room and just move out of the way, like we'll get it done, right? Like that's just, it's inbred in us. So we'll continue to push and fight and do what we need to make sure that our students have every pathway accessible to them that we can get them. So thank you all for being here today. We appreciate it. And I'll send out updates of everything from today very soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good
Thank
weekend.
you so much for a wonderful meeting.
Thank
Great
you.
sharing. Thank you.
And we're here if we can be
Thank you.
resources, everybody. Do not hesitate to reach out.
For
Have
sure.
a good one, everyone. Thanks for being here today.
Bye.